Hey, Sue. How are you?
Good morning. I don't have
How are
any
you?
handouts.
No
Printouts
handouts
about
needed.
the match list or
I'm
anything.
into keeping it. Members. So thank you for coming. And I thought if nothing else, if a dozen of us gather who are on the Kairos committee, we have not actually gathered as a group for quite a long time. And it's an opportunity for us to see each other and have some conversation about what we do. So to begin, and Bromley made this little graphic for us because I thought if I'm going to, hi, do come in. If I'm going to stand in front of a screen, there should be something lit up on it. But I do not have a PowerPoint presentation or anything fancy. I have never done a hybrid workshop, so welcome to those online. I don't know what you're seeing or what your experience is going to be. Do we know how many people are online? Any clue? 7 or 8, okay, good. So we're a small but select group here, and I thank you for coming. Our topic this morning is about Kairos, who we are, what we do, reviewing kind of our mission and our projects that we're all involved in, that we've all been doing. We have tried to evolve and meet people's needs through COVID, and even before that, I think Kairos has evolved as a committee since I have been here at UCG. My understanding is that it began as a ministerial outreach to support and complement, but certainly not not to take the place of ministerial outreach. As a result, both of COVID and my advancing age, I lose words. So please forgive me if I describe things rather than say the actual word that I might have been able to call up but was not able to. I'm Sundaly Seminar, the current chairperson, or actually coordinator. I think of myself as a coordinator more than a chairperson. And I think originally Kairos was not an actual committee. It was a loosely knit group of people that met a variety of ministerial needs. But in recent evolution, it has become an actual committee under the auspices of the Board of Parish Ministry. And we have a written statement of mission in the being in our bylaws. So our technical definition is that we are an unlimited group of church members joined together to address prayer concerns and provide support for the congregation during significant life events. While we were waiting to gather, Ann asked me if Kairos had so many people we don't need them, or if we're seeking more people, or what. We are currently 45 members on the Kairos committee. People sign up and have particular tasks in mind. When they sign, we have a little form to fill out about what tasks you're interested in doing. Some people only send cards. Some people only take food. Some people give rides. Some people only help with setup or takedown, for example, of events. And that's perfectly okay. Some of us are willing to engage in a little bit more personal relationships with people, and we have a variety of services and tasks that we perform, and I'm going to have different people come up and talk about those as we go. But one of the things that has been important for me, and one of the reasons I really love UCG, is that Kairos is not just a committee, it's an ethos that we have, that's been created at UCG of members taking care of each other. And I really appreciate that very, very much. So maybe you all have been the recipient of a card. I know I was recently. A casserole, an offer of assistance, a ride, somebody that just came to sit with you during a difficult time. And I hope that Kairos can sort of be the official and formal arm of that, but that is something that we all do for one another. I love the servant song. It's my favorite hymn that we sing. And in that song, we say, we'll help each other walk the walk and bear the load. But there's another line in there about not only will I be a helper, but I'd be willing to ask others for help, which I find difficult myself to do, and is something we might want to talk about a little bit. But right now, Mary Crummer has a wonderful anecdote about the ethos of caretaking at UCG, and I want her to share it with us.
Some years ago, before I was a member of UCG, I had a friend who came up to me and we were talking, and she said, well, I'm church shopping. And I said, well, how's it going with being church shopping? And she said, well, I've got it down to 2 churches, Holy Trinity and UCG. And I decided that if I had a life crisis, Holy Trinity would pray for me and UCG would bring a casserole. And I went for the casserole. I'm going to be monitoring the chat so that those of you who are online, you can make comments. Sally's going to ask some questions, and you can make comments, and I will relay them up here.
Right, or questions, if they have a question about
Or
something
questions.
they'd like us to talk about. So to get a little bit of discussion going here, I wanted to ask all of us to think of some critical moments in our lives, a time when we either reached out to someone or someone reached out to us, and perhaps it was during an illness or death of a loved one or a new baby or a family crisis. What kind of support have you received at some time in your life when you needed something and somebody came forward to you? Could be a UCG person or not a UCG person, but just times when people have reached out. What has been helpful for you? And I'm going to make some notes, or I'm going to ask Sue to do that for me.
I'll share one thing.
Yes, Fonda.
One time when I got a serious diagnosis, a health problem, I called one of my close friends here at UCG, and within about an hour and a half, there were 4 more people there. And it was just, I just felt surrounded by love and caring, and what can we do? And I mean, that's UCG. You know, you just only have to ask. And I'm reticent sometimes too, like, well, I'll wait until I really need something.
Right, right. So when you had a health crisis, you reached out and a number of UCG people came to be with you and offer support during that time, and you felt surrounded and cared for. Does that summarize a little bit? Yes, Anne.
When my mother died in 2003 or 1 of those years, it was wonderful to have this community to come back to after the services and after the things that happened outside of the community. And I felt very supported and very cared for, just being with. So it's kind of like being with friends and friends and friends. But was also, like, always pretty active in the church, so there was a lot of support to do that too, and help, actual physical help to do things.
Okay, so Anne's comment was that after the death of her mother and dealing with all the immediate part of that, the services, the actual crisis of loss, and coming back to UCG, it felt very comforting, and also practical help was offered in returning to this caring community. Is that?
Right, they just let me cry, it's okay. And I did.
I think Anne's comment was, they just let me cry and that was okay, and that is such a powerful gift. I think of UCG, I had the loss of my husband many years ago before I came to UCG, but was also in a very caring church community. And I think of UCG as a place where I can come and I don't have to be happy here. It's okay to be in a bad mood, or to be sad, or to be just not up to speed, as it were. Yes, Jackie.
Andy's kind of similar to Ann. In Andy's sermon today, which I thought was excellent, he talked about grief being when you're kind of frozen in this dark place and then moving to mourning. And when my mother died, I felt like that's what the church helped me do. I moved from this dark place to a place where I could incorporate that loss and move forward. And it was with prayer, with cards, with food, and also a brief booklet that we got afterwards.
Right.
And allowing time for me to be, you know, incapacitated.
Yes, yes. So Jackie, and actually any of you who feel like you're willing to come up and say your piece so that I don't have to repeat it, that was such a beautiful expression of you know, the post-bereavement process here. I would encourage you to do that, but I'm going to see if I can capture what Jackie said. It may not be quite as poetically, but Jackie talked about a time of grief. It was after your mother died, where incorporating what Andy was talking about this morning of moving from grief, which is a very acute, painful, intense place, to a period of mourning where you can begin to incorporate that experience and the feelings into your being so that you can go forward. And Jackie mentioned, you know, cards and food and comments and calls, and also the bereavement booklets that we have our little bereavement team, Fonda and Barbara, send out afterwards, and they're going to talk about that in a few minutes. We will kind of give you some points about reminding us all about what our current projects are and how helpful those are. Thank you for sharing. Mary?
There's two from chat. Sheila Ginsburg asks, what is the match program?
Okay, Sheila wants to know, and there's someone here who asked about that too, and we're going to share that in a few minutes. Ask her to hold on.
From Susan Austin, who says that she was blessed to receive calls and cards in Melrose after her bone marrow diagnosis, and also thanks to people who took care of her brother's kids' memorial service, Brother Kirk's memorial service.
Okay, so Susan Austin shared that she's received many cards and calls and offers of support after her bone marrow transplant, and also help with memorial service, which is something else that we do, and Susan Carey's going to talk about that in a few minutes. So anybody else want to share a time of help? Ann, do come up. Thank you.
Maybe like some other people, when I've had crises in my life, it's very, very personal, and I've talked with the ministers, and that's been a great help. And it was obvious to me that the right people knew and supported me and held me through those times, and that I was seen, spoken to, and it was discreet, and I will never forget that, how that's carried me through this church from the very moment I walked in the doors 20, 30, 40 years ago, whatever it was. It's a big deal. It's a lot of support that we don't openly ask for or say that we get. So there's a lot of intangible stuff we benefit from in the long lines of Kairos.
Thank you, Ann. Bromley.
When we were first here, and we weren't in person yet, my kids all got birthday cards from individual card centers, and then when my husband had COVID, folks came with meals and support and texts and things. And then when my daughter had COVID the following year, I mean, she's 6 years old, and she got a card from all these church people. She's like, I don't know anyone. We're like, yes, but there's, it meant a lot to her to get something in the mail and get something from all these people that were thinking of her. That meant a lot.
So you've received Kairos caring even before you got particularly integrated into the church, didn't you? Yes, and that was from Bromley, who came to UCG at a particularly vulnerable time and difficult time for transition. So I'm glad to hear that you felt welcomed and got offers of what you needed. It's amazing. I think the cards, how powerful just cards and calls and keeping in touch is. Anybody else want to share? Yes.
I've got a couple. When my mom died, when my mother died, I was, as people are when their mom dies, pretty devastated. And I mean, she was almost 90 years old. She lived a wonderful life and died in a wonderful way overnight, just didn't wake up. But she was my best friend, and wasn't ready for that. And so the memorial service was just absolutely wonderful. And I didn't have to think about the reception or, I mean, it just happened. The food was there. Of course, all the caring and love I felt. But, it just surrounded me with all this love. And then it was healing. And then I came back every week, as Ann was saying, and the music it made me weep every week, but it was very healing to me. And then another thing was I had surgery last year about this time, and I had meals just coming 3 times a week, and it was so great because Raymond just doesn't cook. And he's wonderful, but he just doesn't cook. And he wasn't able to drive at that time either. So it was so great. And so I felt very cared for at that time. And so Kairos has, I think, morphed and evolved into a little more organized way of helping us take care of each other. Another time, Kairos wasn't all put together in the way it is now, but about 12 years ago, our son was in a critical condition in Colorado, and we really didn't know whether he would make it overnight. It was that critical, and they called the chaplain in, and it was tough. But I got lots of love and prayers, and emails. At the time, cards, we were in Denver for a month, and I just felt like all this love kind of came from UCG to us. And I just felt it, actually felt it. So that's all I have to say right now. Trade you places.
If that's all you have to say, that was a lot, Sue. Thank you. Thank you. And, years of caring in different kinds of situations. Before we lose track of the time, because we all have a story and there's many to share, and that's one of the things I really like about our community is the sharing stories. I love the times when people say, this happened to me and this is how I coped. It's very, very helpful. But I do want to let us talk a little bit about the various projects that we have going on that people are involved in. And I know Susan wants to actually get back to the card table. So I'm going to let her come up first and talk about our card ministry.
Good morning. Now, most of you are, I think, pretty familiar with some of the things that we do. Sending cards might seem like not.
Speak up because that microphone doesn't project.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to talk too loud. Okay. Sending cards might seem like a sort of, like, why would we even bother? But I can tell you that we have had so many people come by the card table to say, I want to sign cards now. I never did it before, But I received cards from people that I know don't know me, and I didn't know them, and it touched my heart that people that don't even know me will sit down and send me a healing message. So that is to encourage everyone within hearing distance. When you see the card table, don't think, I don't know that person, or, oh, the card table's full, we'll make another chair, because it does matter. And I'll just tell you one anecdote of like 24 I could say, but there was a woman that we knew of who was a friend of somebody who was a member here, and that friend was moving away. And we knew that her friend had a pretty serious cancer. And so we just started sending her cards from Kairos and from Women's Lunch Group. And then her friend moved away, but we never knew who she was. We never saw her. And we sent cards to her. And one day at the card table, this strange person, not strange person, but person I didn't know, she was a little strange, but in a very good way, in a UCG sort of way. And she said, is it okay if I sign cards? And I said, sure. And then I realized this is the person that we've been sending cards to. And we got to talking, and long story short, I actually accompanied her through the cancer, as did Women's Lunch Group, as did Kairos. And when she died, we did a memorial service here. And the only thing that her sister from England wanted to take back with her was the quilt we gave her and the cards that we had sent. That was it. That makes me teary because we're still in touch with her, but that's how important it is. We don't do it because, oh, we're so important, because that's not how it happened. But sometimes you don't hear the other story of what happened. I also wanted to say you do not have to be on death's door for us to send you a card. So we love to celebrate good news and, notice people who are doing fine. And, just to say, hey, we appreciate what you do. But if you have a person that would like to, you think, well, that would be good, just tell us, and we will do a custom card. Lois and I have been making the cards. I mean, we do occasionally, but we're better than Hallmark at what we can do for people at UCG. But we will bow to Hallmark if we need to do something quickly. So tell us, and we will be glad to rejoice with something. We've sent cards. Like, I imagine that we will do a card for Evelyn Fox, who chaired the Gainesville Remembrance Committee, and we did the second marker, and we need to reach out to the people in our community to say, we see you and we support you. And Jackie should get a card, but we've sent Jackie cards a lot of times because she does a lot in the community. but so please don't think that you really have to have a worthy illness or something, or, we just, if you're hurting or celebrating, let us know. And we're not trying to meddle in your life. And sometimes sending a card to somebody who's sick, then they can decide when they want to look at it and when they, how much they want to receive. And sometimes people with serious illness, that's just better, and I can look at it tomorrow or not have any need to respond. So that's the card thing. And we're out there pretty much every Sunday, rain or shine, or cold. But we're in Seminar A today, so stop by just so you know. We're doing, the other thing that we do with cards is send cards to people that we know are homebound. Some of them have been on our homebound list for years. I've never met them, but they don't ever get to come to church because of illness or lack of mobility or just, being frail. And that also means, so we usually send those at Christmas and Easter, Thanksgiving, Valentine's. I'd like to find something, not Memorial Day, but there's a long gap between Easter and then Thanksgiving again, so we're thinking about doing some thinking of you cards during the summer, just to keep in touch with people. Like, we know, we see you, you're not forgotten, that kind of thing. Okay, switching to very quickly. Oh,
for a second, and then I'm going to call you right back up.
should I sit down?
No, just hang on. So.
I didn't know if it was that.
No. Thank you, Susan, to talk about that. And I want to give a little shout out to Lois about the cards, because I believe you were the one that kind of brought that idea and got it started here. Lois McNamara was our Kairos facilitator for quite a number of years, and she brought this, I believe, from was an idea from Winter Park. Okay, so that was something that you all did there, and we thank you for bringing this, because this has been, I think, a lovely thing. I know there are also some of you. How many of you have, because of the list that gets sent out, sent a card to somebody this year, just randomly? I have. Yeah, good, thanks. Okay, and so one of the next things that yes.
I was gonna add that Susan took this person she was speaking of to many, many appointments, but that is something that Kairos has also done. Like, sometimes you have those like colonoscopies, you've got to have a driver and things like that. I remember somebody needed to be at a place at 5:15, and I called David Hackett, and he said, yes, I can do that. Just amazing what people have done for each other. Right. Yes, and the rides and the different tasks. We're going to talk about that in just a second too. So, no. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so the next thing, we do have some bereavement things, and Susan also organizes the memorial service receptions. Sue Littell talked about that, receiving that, and how important that was. But go ahead, Susan. Talk about that.
Okay, just briefly, we have a little subcommittee that anybody's welcome to be on. That, to me, a family who is grieving should not have to worry about doing a reception if they want people to come. But sometimes that's just beyond your capacity. Getting through the day is enough. So I think that's a church's job. That's just my own little opinion. And so we will meet with families, or sometimes they just say, do it. Or we have completely done the service. Susan Austin, who called in, mentioned her brother who died by suicide. And very suddenly and unexpectedly, and we just did a little committee, and we did the memorial service in the chapel and had a little celebration here, and it was just lovely. And Art Crummer learned Starry, Starry Night during that day and played it at the service. So, people will just do something if they just know, So don't keep it a secret. You have to let people know that you're hurting. Sometimes, but we don't sit around wondering, is that person okay? So let somebody know. Sometimes we can figure it out, but the memorial things will happen. We don't care where it is. We've done it at Prairie Creek. We've done it in COVID. We've done them out here. That people can gather and not worry about, we will worry about how many cookies we have and how many people that's going to serve, but that shouldn't be the bereaved person's job. So people help to clean up, people help to set up, people bring food. It doesn't happen if you sit fetal position at home in your bed, but if you move, we get enough cookies. So thank you. Please notice that. Not that we did it, but that it needs to be done. I'm done. I'm going back to the card table.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, so cards and bereavement. You want to talk about the follow-up to that, Fonda?
I know we're short on time, so I'm going to get my glasses. And so that I won't ramble, and I'll get through quickly. You're right, there was very little going on with Kairos. Some of us were just visiting people in hospitals or at home at the very beginning, but as you know, when slowly but surely services were added, when Lois came, there were many other things added, and of course now
under Sally's direction, enthusiasm. There are many dedicated people doing so many things, and you'll hear about them. One of the things that began long ago was when the Reimers were our pastors. Sandy, in addition to the support that they gave to people when there's a family member or a close person to a member of our congregation, she found these bereavement booklets, very specific, maybe, I think, recommended by UCC, and so she sent 4 personal notes a year and 4 bereavement books over the course of the year after a person died. And as they were planning to retire, she asked if I would continue that until Shelley came to see what she thought about it. Shelley was happy to have it done. She didn't have a substitute right away. By the time Brownlee came, it was already part of Kairos and going, and I hope you still like us doing that. And so I did start doing that, and meanwhile, the church was growing rapidly, and it was becoming a larger task. So Barbara Yenzo joined me and asked if she could share doing the task of that, which was really wonderful. Because of the many deaths that we do experience here, unfortunately, we're large, and so there's always a loved one who's ill or perhaps has died. We are continuing the procedure that was suggested with the booklets, and that is to send them just to one's parents, mother, father, parent surrogate, partner, spouse, children, and grandchildren. We considered more, but by the time you think of siblings and cousins and aunts and uncles and in-laws who have the same number, that would be the total ministry of someone full-time and more maybe. So anyway, that's there are exceptions we make. Sometimes someone has a very, very close child that they've cared about all their lives, and that will happen. Sometimes there's a sibling who's the last living person in the family, and so we certainly can make exceptions if we know about the situation. So what happens specifically is when Sally hears about a death, if Barb and I don't already know, she lets us know, as she does the rest of Kairos, and we have a printed form that we fill out, so we have all the information and this card system. Otherwise, we couldn't keep track with all the members and all the many booklets that go 4 times a year. It includes the date of the death of the person, and so that's how it's filed. So it goes in the month when they are due to have the next booklet sent. And then the end of the year, then we can count and get a report for Kairos, which is helpful. The process was designed to send the first one, the personal note and the booklet, about 2 to 3 weeks after the death of a loved one. And when I first read that, I thought, well, that seems like a long time. But as I thought about it more, it made a lot of sense to me, in fact, personally, because in those first few weeks, there's the hustle and the bustle and the preparations and the deep grief and family coming and close friends there. And then they all have to go back home. And sometimes that leaves someone even living alone for the first time. So this is a reminder that your UCG family is still here, and we still care, and we are here to support you. And I think it's worked well in terms of the timing. The second one is sent out at about 3 months following the death. The third one is sent out at about 6 months following the death. And then the last one, the fourth one, is sent in the month before the anniversary of the death of the loved one. And I don't need to tell you how that time is so particularly difficult and or poignant that we are happy that we can be there. And that's a different kind of note. Sometimes it promises ongoing things that are needed, and we find out from them what else is needed. And we've gotten a lot of feedback from people who said that it was helpful during that period of time. I'm not going to say any more because I know we're running late, but I do have a set of them here if you'd like to see them before you go. I know some of you have received them, and as if sent to myself, kind of, John. But if you want to take a look, and I can talk some more about it later, but I want everybody to have a chance to talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's just, that's a little Kairos ministry that goes on its own over here, and it's not often seen. But if you're the recipient, then you go, oh, I didn't realize that this was part of it. So thank you very much. A couple of people have asked about the match program, so I'm going to ask Sue to come up and talk about that next.
Okay, the match program was instituted about just a few years ago. And it's a way for people who are shut at home and unable to get to church to still have a contact with UCG. And that contact is with one specific person usually who volunteers, or sometimes we'll ask someone if there'll be a match contact for this person. And that can be in the form of just contacting them by phone, once a week, once every couple of weeks. It's not anything very formal. Sometimes someone needs just to talk to somebody, or just to hear that we still think about you, or do you have any questions, or do you need anything? And our list is kind of flexible. Sometimes there's a temporary match. Someone's at home for a few months at a time, and then recovers and is able to get back to church. And then, so the match program changes from time to time, or there's a death. And right now, the match program has only about eight people on it. And there are several people at Oak-Hammock, and Bromley and Carol Zagel, coordinate a quarterly service for those folks out there. I think there are about 4 or 5 of them out there. So if you, and the ministers let us know too, if someone needs someone to contact them and be a match. So if you can think of anybody, ask Sally, call me. All right, if you can think of anybody who you know and we're not aware of, who's shut in and not able to get to church anymore, let us know, and we will find a match for them. Or if you know somebody and you'd like to be a match for them, let me know, let us know. That's it, okay?
So we do a lot of things in times of trouble, but we also do some things that are a little more joyful. Like Susan said, you don't have to have a catastrophic illness to get attention from Kairos. So one of the things we do is baby baskets. You want to talk about that, Jackie?
So Sally, Kimberly, and I are retired midwives, so we get the wonderful duty of delivering the baby baskets. And the baskets were baskets from Lois's sister for a while, with a quilt made usually by Ann Taylor. I believe they're just beautiful. And it would have some baby clothes and some books and wipes and, all those little things you need. And Sally and I will deliver them to someone who's either had a new baby or adopted a baby. And because we're midwives, often we'll help out with a little problem with mastitis, or is this okay or not? We're like baby experts. So that has been just a joy. I love doing that.
We have so much talent in this congregation. It's really kind of fun to call on people who have particular skills to share them with others. And I think the baby baskets, having our retired midwives, not ex-midwives, retired midwives deliver those, it's fun. Another fun thing we do are the little Christmas treat baskets, and Mary has been the head Christmas elf, and I'm going to let her talk about that.
Yes, this is a joyful thing to do. It's the continuation of something that Lois started. For the friendship group, which is of intellectually disabled people, we give a Christmas bag, and we also have added other people that the clergy or other people say might be cheered for a Christmas bag. And we've expanded from just having home-baked goods, which we still do, but some of the people in the friendship group are very limited in what they can eat or can't have any sweets. So we've expanded, and it was a very joyful time of volunteers who brought a lot of miscellaneous stuff that we put to the individual. We individualized the bags, and Sue brought all these Gator tote bags. So this year, instead of Christmas bags, we had Gator tote bags, and put a lot of different things. I mean, people would bring things like a music box or coloring books, and then we individualized them, and it was a great group of volunteers, and we had a good time. We sent out 20 bags.
And if any Christmas season needed a little levity, it was this one, this past one. Okay, a couple other things that we do that you can see up here is meals. A couple people mentioned meals as being very helpful in crisis times. That's one of the things I enjoy doing, and it gives me an opportunity also to say hello to the person that's ill or in need. And I like to cook and feed people, so that's one of the things I like to do. We do have some limits on that. We will provide meals. We kind of decided as a group that we would do 3 meals a week for 2 weeks. If people have exceptional need, then we reconsider after that. And now that goes out online now. So we used to have a sign up, like you'd come and sign up in person on the bulletin board. That has its advantages, but the online sign up, you can see everybody else that's already signed up, and so it's not overlapping. The other thing we've put on Sign Up Genius are people that need rides. So we have this year in particular given rides to some people that needed therapies for different kinds, and for one of our members who is blind and has a lot of need during this COVID time, the services that have been available in the community have kind of not been very reliable. So that's been quite helpful. Another thing that Kairos does, which was sort of the original mission, I think, was visitation and taking communion to people who are homebound and have need for that. We have done a lot less of that, almost none, during the past 2 years because of the COVID restrictions. But there is still the occasional visitation or so forth. The health ministry team is one other area that comes under Kairos. That's on hiatus at the moment and could be another 20 minutes talking about it, which I won't go into. But those are our current projects. We try to be flexible and expansive as needed. But the one thing I'd like to say kind of in closing is we can't meet everybody's needs all the time. So my philosophy is it doesn't hurt to ask, and oftentimes there's an outpouring from an area that you wouldn't expect from, but sometimes there's a gap. So we're not perfect, but we do try to take care of each other. So thank you all for coming today, and that kind of concludes the presentation, but I hope everybody will take a minute to say hello to each other. Are there any questions or final things that need to be said before we end?
If we want to get in touch with a certain department, do we just email you directly?
Yes, you can email me directly. There's my sallyjsimonis@gmail on there. You can, and if you want to speak to me afterwards, I'll take some information so we can be in touch about whatever need. So,
And
yes,
Sally brought
Fonda?
chocolate.
Oh yes, there's chocolate. Feed the world. Thank you for coming.